Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Jack Chow. When I say back, I mean once again I have my friend, Mr. Chris Nibby, picking up those problems that we have, yet we're not fully aware of. Those problems are in various kind of areas. In the immigration area, we believe that's a big one. The problem is even bigger. So today we're talking about one issue that is so important, that is so ignored at the same time. So welcome to the show.
你好，老朋友。
Very good. Thank you. 你好, I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Very good, yeah. So when you say an injury to one is an injury to all, what do you mean?
That used to be in the old days the slogan when workers unionized. That was their slogan. And
All right.
Therefore, I choose this as the headline of this article because what is being done to undocumented workers in the United States of America, the supposed land of the free and home of the brave, is not only inhuman, but it's a crime against humanity, especially when it comes to innocent children of those undocumented workers.
No, take your time. All right. Are you talking about the undocumented immigrants?
Yes,
Or their children?
I'm talking about both.
You're talking
But
about
I'm mainly concentrating on the plight of roughly 13,000 children.
It is the first time for me to hear the term undocumented workers.
Yes. Undocumented workers are those illegals who manage to slip into the country with their families and are now being hunted down, even though they are performing jobs in general Americans don't want to do. And roughly 13,000, I repeat, 13,000 children of undocumented workers are currently detained in shelters across the United States to be deported. Some of their parents have already been deported, and the whole thing is an incredible bureaucratic mess and very sad and wrong.
I believe that you and I once did a show talking about what happened at the border.
Yes.
About border crossing, right?
Right.
And later, with another friend of mine, Mr. Joe Gardner, who has a friend working line of that business for border control, confirms that that is the norm for every single day for the past 20 years, at least. When he says 20 years, he says that he means to say the years that he's been in the force. Prior to that, he didn't know, assuming that might be the same thing, right? So, in other words, we're talking about a normal situation at the border when people try to go across the land to find an opportunity, of course, better life, and then they are sent back, not sent back, or come back again, so on and so forth. It's been on and on and on and on problem for decades. So
But I think
we're not talking about that part.
no.
So we're talking about some of the kids belonging to them,
Yes.
all right, are being unfairly treated.
Yes, they are
Right.
being, the question is, maybe unfair is the wrong word, but you know, the conditions in these immigration centers and shelters are deplorable, with children reporting rape, sexual abuse, and physical violence. Innocent children are forever traumatized by a barbaric bureaucratic system that is devoid of any empathy. Across the United States, under cover of darkness, the government is rounding up immigrant children and sending them to camps in faraway deserted areas like, for example, Tornillo in Texas. Tornillo, near the US-Mexican border, where children are forced to live in tents. That reminds us of those most shameful episodes in American history, including the capture of fugitive slaves, the forced removal of Native Americans from their land, and the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. The New York Times has spoken with employees in those detention centers, and they describe the conditions as concentration camp-like.
All right. I believe that we once discussed already, and then I believe that issue ended up with a court order, right, to deny the detention, that no longer any kids can be detained for more than 20 days.
But that has been changed.
Right.
The government
When was that changed?
Recently. The government has now decided to be able to, they have rescinded this, and I was having this later in my notes here, and I can tell you right now that this was recently, this is a court order, and it was named, one second, it was named, it was rescinded by the government, and
anyway, you were saying that was the ban was lifted.
Yes, the court order was changed. Was changed by the government, and they now say this. It was 20 days. You're correct, and that court order now has been changed, and the government now has a right to indefinitely have these children there, because they're facing also a problem. You know that some of the parents have been already deported. It's a very complicated.
By law, though, if the law says you can't detain them more than 20 days, there are still rooms you can play with.
No.
Because at the end of 20 days, you release them and capture them right away.
That I don't know, but it was the Flores settlement. A court agreement that barred the government from detaining immigrant children for more than 20 days. The Department of Homeland Security has decided that they begin detaining children indefinitely now. So, but, the kids
now they are, in other words, now they are detaining them indefinitely.
Indefinitely, yes.
Till when? There's no line, no limit, no nothing?
No, because you see, in some cases, or in many cases, the parents or the relatives have been deported already, and the kids are left over. And they have around their waist belts on which our contact telephone numbers are written, but most of them are no longer valid. So it's a complete, you see, this kind of bureaucratic maneuvers usually turns out, because of the large numbers involved, into a mess. And this mess has been created, and it's a shameful mess because it involves children who don't speak the language, who are, as per employees of these camps and shelters, they are being said, call them concentration camp-like.
I do understand where you're from, and I believe I do understand the problem, right? As a nation, we really have to, on one hand, show that we have a secure border, and on the other, we really have to act or play in a humane way, right? That I agree, right? Let's take a short moment now. We come back to find out how exactly we want it to be done. So stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow with my dear friend, Mr. Chris Neby, political commentator. I would say a special commentator, because not only politics, he pays a lot of attention to history, to archives, and now, for example, right now we're talking about a human issue, humanitarian issue, rather than any politics, right? So now, of course, nowadays the humanitarian issue is mixed with the politics. However, to be more precise, humanitarian issue is exactly away from politics. Regardless of what party you are with, regardless what side of the road you're standing, and human is a human, life is a life. From that perspective, this 13,000 kids needs to be treated like human kids of a human being, right? So, on the other hand, they really have to face the problem. It is rather a long time headache, right? Let me ask you one thing. A year and a half ago, in the winter, I believe, Madam Murdoch accepted about 1% or 2 or 3% versus the German population of immigrants, of refugees.
Madam Merkel.
Merkel, I'm sorry.
Angela Merkel, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Madam Merkel.
She accepted about 1.5 million refugees from the Middle East due to the trouble in the Middle East.
What are they doing? How are they doing now? I mean, the 1.5 million.
That has resulted, unfortunately, her goodwill, her humanitarian goodwill, has resulted in the problem that the right wing in Germany has risen. We are now having in Germany a right-wing party which is very large, and we are having a lot of problems. Not because of the immigrants, but because of that feeling that we don't want these people. Mm-hmm. And while I do understand this, I thought and I applauded the humanitarian gesture of Madame Merkel, because, you see, I do believe that we need a real, true renaissance of true humanity. Because people talk about humanity, but as you just said, it's all mixed with politics, with money, with political gains, with financial gains. I'm talking about true humanity. And the world, as far as this is concerned, is, as far as I'm concerned, in chaos. Absolutely. And I can go on and on and on. There's injustice everywhere. And here, this injustice is, I would say the government actually is helpless.
It is, yeah, it is. I agree. It is a very pathetic situation.
Yes.
Right? And it's very, very, those poor kids, well,
they're traumatized
they
for
are
life.
Traumatizing too much, and they need a certain care, right? After all, you're talking about only 13,000 of them, not a 1.5 million.
But still, you see, both parties, the Democrats as well as the Republicans, have ignored these Gestapo-type activities of the government against innocent children. The corporate media has largely avoided reporting these horrific abuses of humanity in the so-called land of the free and home of the brave. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it is not in the interest of these parties to discuss that. For example, according to the Texas Tribune, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi advised Democratic candidates during a speech in Austin on Sunday, September 30th, that a strategy focusing on the issue of immigration during the midterm election would be a waste of energy. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. That means she advised the candidates for election, don't talk about immigration. Yes, because it's such a hot issue and such a negative issue. Because in the land of America, which is always been where freedom and we the people, you have the posters in your office, have always been very meaningful. This is a shameful situation. But she said, don't address it, because both parties are in cahoots. Because
one thing is wrong, that's totally wrong. We believe that regardless of Democrats or Republicans, this is not a political issue. This is not a partisan issue, right? Do you think it is much better they work hand in hand to get this done, get this problem taken care of?
Jack, there is behind this has been a system. If America would have installed in Central America and in Mexico a visa system where a worker could apply for a visa for a temporary work permit in America, with the understanding that he cannot bring his family over, but he can work, and after 1 year, if he likes to, he can extend that. If such a visa system would exist, it doesn't. A visa system would exist.
That's why they call for overall immigration reform.
Yes, but it has never been done, because there is a reason behind it. There are 20 million undocumented workers in America. They're doing all the work for little money. The white Americans don't want to do.
Why 20 million? Last time I checked, it was 11 to 12 million.
No, now the numbers are 20 million.
No. There must be something wrong. I don't think there's going to be 8 million added within less than a year.
But you know, these numbers are all flexible. Even if it's only 2 million, it's 2 million and too much.
Oh, 2 million is a big number already.
And if you would
there are countries with a population less than 2 million.
And if you would have this type of official immigration, not immigration, of labor laws, it would be fine. But you don't have that. So people try, come over the border, and we talked about that when we discussed that film Sicario Part 2 and some recent shows. So you see, there is a system behind that, because corporations and the elite profit from this system where undocumented workers do all the undesirable work in America for little money. For very little money, and they're brave and docile because they have no papers and they're basically second-class citizens.
They are being exploited.
That's
another word. Yeah.
So that is the problem. That's why I'm telling you, we need a renaissance of true humanity, because behind all this humanitarian talk is always that naked exploitation of the weak based on money. That's what the reason. And American anti-immigrant chauvinism and racism.
I don't know who gets benefit from.
The rich, the one who, the one. For example, if you have
the rich get benefited from
the corporations who have cheap labor. The cheap labor. You, for example, undocumented people work in an endless amount of labor, like garbage collecting is a total job of undocumented labor because nobody wants to do it. So who profits? The garbage collection companies, who are huge. It's a very clever system. It's based on chauvinism, anti-immigrant chauvinism and racism. It works very well, and it's shamefully rampant in both parties, because clearly evidence in a September 26th vote, a congressional resolution was passed that allowing illegal immigrants the right to vote devalues the franchise and diminishes the voting power of U.S. citizens.
And there was a saying that they authorized the undocumented right to vote, but never been confirmed.
That's it.
Where did you get the confirmed information about that voting right?
No, that is public, and that is okay, but it also indicates, you see, that there is this latent chauvinism and racism underlying anything which goes.
No. Well, let's do issue one by one, okay? For the voting issue that's serious, do they have any evidence which and when, which area, how many were?
They seem to have, because otherwise they wouldn't have made this revolution. And you see, for example, Bernie Sanders, who is a progressive, he claims that immigrant workers weaken the position of the American working class. What a comment. What a comment. To the contrary, the presence of a large international worker population within each country testifies the globalization of labor, which is irreversible. Globalization is irreversible, and you have to face the fact.
Okay. Well, there are only, there are only two sides of the coin, right? You have to see one side, and you have also to see the other side. Only by looking at both sides of the coin, though, can we get a better understanding of the problem. Can we get a solution to the problem?
The solution is a visa for temporary work in America.
A visa for temporary work in America,
which is easily accessible.
It's been a subject they've been talking for decades.
Yes. Why? They have been talking about that because for those elites who profit from undocumented workers, who do all the undesirable work others don't want to do, they don't want a legalized system. Because if a legalized system is, the man has rights. An undocumented worker is always docile and easy prey for exploitation. It's very simple. This is, you see, this is where.
So, in other words, the elite who benefit from it, from the cheap labor,
that's it,
do not like the fact that migrant visa, migrant workers visa would give them a chance of getting equal pay.
Right.
By giving them equal pay, the elite who benefit gets less benefit.
That's it.
Am I right?
Yes.
That's how I understand it?
Yes.
Okay, now, what to do with the children, right? Well, of course, the migrant worker problem is still a problem for many years, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, by the way, let's take a short moment now. We come back to continue, please. So the migrant worker problem has been a problem for a long time.
Right.
Why all of a sudden there pop up a 13,000 children problem?
Because it has accumulated over the years, and all of a sudden you see every bubble goes to a certain point and then it bursts. And this bubble has burst, and now it's an open secret that over 2 million people in America are homeless. Kids are homeless.
And I also learned that some of the kids are not even connected to who they claim to be their parents.
Could be very well, yeah. They don't even speak the language.
Mm-hmm. So what do we want to do with them? Send them home.
Where to?
Well, back home, Mexico.
But then maybe not from Mexico, maybe they're from someplace else.
Well, so can we at least find where they are from?
Apparently not, because that's a problem.
Can we ask them where they are from?
But some of them are so young that they don't even know. We're talking kids for 2 years old. It's a real huge problem, and it's a problem because it is, if, you see, immigration laws in the past always have been done like this. Okay, we give amnesty to those who are here, which is fine. But that does not, that of course creates that more people, because these people do not come from a country of plenty. These people come in search for a new life, for a new humanitarian existence, humane life. They come here and they're willing to take this. I wouldn't want to come here and be illegal, because I am legal. I am a German citizen and I have a green card, and I'm legal and I have rights and I would defend them. They have no rights. So they are easily to be exploited.
All right. Well, let's separate the whole thing, right? And the 13,000 children is not a big problem to me. At any given time, get a few busloads, put them on a few buses, we can send them wherever they belong to, right? We can get them out of the United States. Now, we have several issues mixed on the board. The board being that Donald Trump saying that we need a wall, right? It looks to me we do need some kind of wall to stop people passing by, right? And number two, people are talking about it is time to do a immigration reform. And the third group say it is even time to give an amnesty to let go the problem.
But if you give an amnesty, it doesn't go the problem. You still have 13,000 kids where you don't even know where they belong to. Secondly, secondly, a wall. Every wall in the world has been torn down by chain. The Israelis now have a wall separating the Palestinians in an apartheid state, and I guarantee you, one day that wall will go down.
That's why in the beginning I did not support the wall.
So, then no, the system is very simple, and funny enough, nobody speaks about it, and the official position is very clear by Mr. Bernie Sanders, who says undocumented workers weaken American workers' position.
All right. What
That's
he
not
says is
true.
right. I believe he was
No,
right.
because these workers do mainly jobs others don't want to do. So they're not weakening nobody. And if a supposedly progressive
they
Democrat...
do the low end, the low pay,
Yes.
labor intensive.
Right, and
okay.
if a progressive
If
like this man, Bernie Sanders, says that immigrant workers weaken the position of the American working class, that shows you what goes on in the mind of these people here. Nobody has ever said a fair, simple law. I want to work in America, I go and get a visa, or I don't get a visa. But if that's what is needed, and it doesn't exist. This is a reason amnesty is not doing it either, because amnesty is, then you have more people coming on the fact that eventually Americans will give amnesty.
It looks to me there is no single solution that can handle the problem. Once you really want to get to the problem, you have to take multi-level solutions, methods to take care of the issue.
One solution would be that the countries where they come from are not doing so bad that people are basically fleeing. Because people always run away to another country in hope to have a better life.
They're happy to be poor. What can you do about it?
I don't know anybody who is happy to be
they have the
poor.
land, they have the resources, and what if they are just lazy?
No.
What if they just
if
don't
they
work?
would be lazy, they would stay where they are.
Don't work hard enough.
They're coming. No. This is a dangerous statement you're doing right now. They're not lazy, because if they would be lazy, they would stay where they are. Because here, they are being taken for whatever they can have. How do you feel? What do you think when you are by yourself in a country, you hardly speak the language, and anybody can arrest you, but you are like free for anybody, and you have to work for your bread. You take any job you can get, you get the cash, and you're docile, and this is no life.
I know. I'm not necessarily saying that I go against these people, all right? I'm not saying that I'm supporting them. I just say we need something to be done right now.
Yes, but
and this something is not going to be single layer.
No.
It has to be multi-layer and solutions whatsoever to take care of the problem. To give you the name, to name of the levels, we can give them amnesty for one step, and the rest of which will give and will be given the migrant workers visa, and then get the kids out, find out their parents, who they are, give the kids to them, that's it. Or ask them to come claim their kids.
Yeah, what are they going to claim when they're in El Salvador, Nicaragua, and they don't speak the language? Yeah.
And then you're talking about a problem of no solution.
First of all, you should have never separated kids from parents, number one. That's how to start. It's an idiotic idea, it's terrible, it's barbaric. Now you're settled with it, and now they don't know what to do. Secondly, as I repeat myself, for example, the farmers in the north of California are hurting very much because the increased surveillance of the borders has decreased the influx of undocumented aliens.
Yeah, that has been reported already.
Yeah, and they have nobody to work the field because the Americans don't want to do it.
All right.
So,
by that, we maybe even not need an actual wall, which is to enhance the enforcement on the borderline, and first that reduce the number of crossing. Number one, right? So with that only, it doesn't work at all. That's why I say we need a multi-level immigration reform action taken now.
But that has been needed not only now, that had been needed yesterday and before yesterday.
How come? Well, what if I say today even more seriously needed?
I think it has been a serious issue since the days of Cesar Chavez, who organized the farm labor workers in California. And that's almost like 70 years ago. It has been going on for a long time. So there is no solution, because the whole thing is so screwed up that I'm sure the government is looking to solve it, because it cannot be for you keep talking about humanitarian rights, and this is certainly a blatant affront to anything resembling humanitarian rights. So I'm sure that the government is trying to get out of this mess, but they're in a basically helpless situation, because if you have a 2-year-old kid who doesn't even know his name.
Obviously, the total number of 13,000 kids being detained, that part of the news is blocked. Not everybody else was aware of it.
No, but it has come out now, and now it's no longer blocked. It was not talked about. As I told you before, Nancy Pelosi advised in Texas candidates for the midterm elections, don't talk about the immigration system.
No, that's wrong. We have to.
Yeah, but you see, that's both parties are in corruption in this issue, in cahoots with the media.
All right.
And it takes some independence to.
My dear friend, it looks like we really have a big problem on hand. We know that we have an immigration problem, but when it comes to certain issues, at a certain time, it is really, really looking to me that not only do we need a solution to do something, but also we need a multi-layer of solutions to have the problem taken care of. Stay with us, please. When we come back, we'll open for a suggestion, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow with my friend Chris Nibby on the East West Show with a discussion about how we handle with our immigration problems. It is all triggered by the subject that we have 13,000 kids of the undocumented immigrants being detained somewhere, somehow, in a very dirty area. They live now in tent. Among them, the youngest is supposed to be 2 years old. Now, by now, they might be 3 or 4, right? And the oldest, by now, 15, 16, 17 something, right? Those kids, 13,000 of them. Reportedly, they live a kind of a horrible life, and that they are kind of forgotten, and they deserve, as a matter of fact, the same treatment like each kids in this country deserve to get, right? To get the problem, though, Mr. Chris Nibby did a research, found out lots of data, and we put the data together. We want to call for immigration reform. With immigration reform, it has to go multi-layers as solutions to handle all kinds of different groups of people, right? Good. Now, what do you recommend if we do this immigration reform, multi-level immigration reform?
I recommend, number one, a visa system for temporary work visa. Secondly, I think that, which will be impossible because the workers who are here illegal most likely will not go and register because once they register, they're afraid to be deported. So
they hate to work from the dark. They hate to walk from the dark.
Yeah. You see, when you are, and if you go give asylum, okay, you are actually inviting more to come because they think, oh, eventually we'll get asylum. So asylum, not asylum. Asylum is also not asylum.
Amnesty was not the first time.
No, it has been many times.
Oh yeah.
And this is not.
Ronald Reagan gave it.
Yes.
And Senator Bush gave it one time. So
and
it's about time we do the same thing.
No, but you see, amnesty means for those who are outside, they hear, eventually I'll get amnesty. So let's try. Mm-hmm. If there is no amnesty and if you are being refused, I think it all needs to do with a visa. You will still have some illegal crossings, but I'm sure they will be reduced if you make an easy access visa problem where somebody comes and has no problem. In some of these countries, they don't even get passports.
You're just assuming. I would exactly say you're just assuming they had been going through the right channel with a visa, with a passport. And after the passport expires, though, they become illegal, right? The problem is that there are more of them who come over here, not even a piece of paper, let alone a passport.
And not only this, some of them are illiterate. They don't even know. All they know is I can work. And I mean, look.
They don't read, they don't write.
You see, so it's a big problem. And yes, and the problem actually results from the fact that compared to where they're coming from, this here is still paradise. And they make in one day more than they make in a week or a month where they come from. So the problem is multifaceted, and when you ask me, do you have a solution? I must confess, I don't have a solution, a real solution, because the problem is overwhelming, and that's why we have
to have a solution, right?
I don't know the solution.
For example, the 13,000 kids needs to go to school,
Yeah.
right? Can we find the schools for them, put them in school, right? And number two, we need to find where their parents are.
They shouldn't be here in the first place.
All right, I know.
You know?
I know, but I am only talking about not what's right or what's wrong. I'm talking about what is the fact. The fact exists. I'm talking about we, sober-minded people, knowing what's right and what's wrong, to deal with the problem that's existing, right? That's existing. So the existing problem, the human lives are being detained, especially kids, right? And workers, they are not equally paid because they do not have document. And on and on and on and on, putting together, you're talking about 12 million of them. So when the number is so big, it poses to some kind of instability, right? And as the vice president of at certain times, they will give them amnesty or asylum to reduce the pressure to the government. So now, without reform, without amnesty, without asylum, without anything, we just let the thing go on. We can't kill them. We have to feed them, right, on a day-to-day basis. So this is no partisan issue. We have to get onto it right away.
Yeah, I think,
so?
Maybe one issue is that you should, those who know, you just should send them back, give them some cash and fly them back. And those who don't, but that's the tragedy, because a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, they don't know where they come from. And that is a real issue, you see, and that's a real issue, and that I don't know how to handle it, because I am sure that the government is not intentionally doing this, and they would rather have these 13,000 problems out of their hair.
Yeah.
But it has become an issue, and as it is an issue, it becomes more and more an issue because you don't know what to do. That's it.
Exactly. And nobody at this moment knows what to do.
No.
Right? And plus the ongoing crossing border been a norm for the past 20 years.
Right.
Now,
Longer.
you have growing numbers of border crossers, and you have the existing number increasing, and you have the kids detained, and everything everywhere points the finger at one issue. Well, let's do some reform right away. Okay, let me ask you this way. Do you think Donald Trump, he has another 2 years, right, will spend some time working on this issue?
I don't think so. And, you know, I avoid to put the blame on one name, on one person, because after all, there is a huge government behind that one person, and it's not a one-person decision. But judging from his general anti-immigrant statements, he's not gonna care for it. And also, he does represent those who actually profit from the situation, because, as I told you, undocumented labor in America does all the work Americans don't want to do.
Also, of course, we do realize this whole thing needs time to get to be done, right? Needs a long, long time to get to be done.
Yeah, but you see, the amnesty thing, while very humane and very nice, was actually wrong. Because if I give you amnesty, you come here and you figure maybe I'm lucky, I will be part of an amnesty system. So amnesty is not necessarily the right way. It sounds good, it's humanitarian, but it's not the right way. The beginning is, it's actually a problem which walls cannot solve. The problem is maybe we should look that the countries they're coming from are not in such deplorable conditions to make people basically flee for a better life someplace else.
Walls cannot solve the problem.
No.
And that is for sure. And the other day when I saw the film, though, I understand with with modern technology, you do not need a wall. You can see the whole thing from above. You can see the whole thing. You can see the face. You can see the crossing. You can see the movement of everybody in a very, very, very clear way. So,
if you are at the right place at the right time, and I mean this border is very long, and there are stretches you can't be everywhere. So
all right.
It is a very sad thing, and I think it's also difficult to put the finger and blame somebody.
I believe there was one time those border people, border U.S. residents, were kind of like mobilized to open their houses, to take a few of the kids, of the troubled kids. And later on, when they found out that won't work, though, they put them in a detention center, which is called the concentration camp. Right? So that is something in the process of getting resolved.
But it's not getting resolved. It makes the problem even worse.
Well, of course, they capture new ones, they put them together and detain them, right? So now they need to find a solution of. I'm absolutely sure, unless we find something absolutely necessary with the several layers, I believe we cannot do a thing with the whole
Right.
issue.
I agree with you. I have no solution other than that legitimate visa issue. But you see, many of these people have no passports, cannot read or write. And I mean, it's amazing when you think that people leaving their home, all they do is in search for a better life. I mean, they are really truly refugees in this type. They're economic refugees.
All right, give them asylum, give them amnesties, well, to get rid of the whole thing this time.
But that's like a Band-Aid, because it's going to continue.
I believe right after November midterm election, probably Donald Trump would get his hand on it, have something worked out, right? He's been known for his quick actions, unpredicted quick actions, right?
Your word in God's ear.
Let something happen to that area by Donald Trump.
As far as Madame Merkel is concerned, who I admire very much, you see, this was a little different, because these were political refugees. They were not economic refugees.
All right, okay, my dear friend, today we're talking about the border problem. We found out that 13,000 kids should not be detained. We are detaining them. And they are living a miserable life, and they want to find their parents. And some say they are not related to the undocumented workers, right? So big problem getting even worse. Now all fingers has pointed out at one thing, that look at the time, look at the accumulation, look at the seriousness of the situation. It is time for amnesty, for asylum, for total immigration reform. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So with me today is my friend, dear brother Chris Nivy, and thank you for the homework, and thank you for talking, sharing with us. So to audiences, thank you for watching.